Hey, welcome to DA Tool Brief 0005. And at 5:20 on a Monday morning, the Operations Center for a Regional Transit Authority receives the first call. A large water main break has opened beneath the intersection beside the city's central bus transfer hub. The pavement has collapsed across 2 lanes. Water is still moving under the roadway. Police have closed the main entrance. Public Works has established a safety perimeter and cannot provide a reliable reopening time. The hub itself is still standing. That matters because 22 routes pass through it during the morning commute. Riders use it to reach 2 hospitals, the downtown employment district, 3 high schools, the county courthouse, and the regional rail station. Hundreds of transfers are scheduled inside narrow windows. Operators have already left the garage. Riders are already standing at stops. The objective is legitimate and direct. Maintain safe transit service, preserve critical connections, and keep as much of the morning network moving as possible. The first response appears reasonable. The authority keeps the hub active and routes buses through a narrow service entrance on the opposite side of the property. Supervisors are sent to direct traffic. Operators are told to enter, unload, load, and clear the lane as quickly as possible. Dispatch adds several minutes to each route. Leadership believes the disruption can be managed until Public Works provides a better estimate. The service entrance can physically accept a bus. The transfer center remains open. The published route maps do not have to change. Riders can still be told to use the normal hub. That looks like continuity. Within 30 minutes, the signal field changes. Buses begin stacking outside the service entrance because only one vehicle can turn through the lane at a time. The added dwell time causes riders to miss connecting routes. Operators who leave the hub late arrive late to the next time point. Dispatchers begin holding outbound buses for transferring passengers, which protects one connection and damages the next 3 stops. Pedestrians cross the service lane because the normal walkway is inside the police perimeter. A supervisor has to stop bus movement every time a larger group enters the platform. 2 school routes arrive together and block the turn. A hospital employee shuttle cannot reach its assigned bay. Radio traffic becomes crowded with requests for instructions, location updates, and permission to leave out of sequence. The transit planning manager raises a different read. The transfer hub is not the objective, the connections are. She proposes splitting the operation across 2 temporary transfer points. Northbound and hospital routes would move to a municipal lot 3 blocks east. Southbound and rail connection routes would use the Civic Center loop. A short shuttle would connect the 2 locations. Mobile supervisors, temporary signs, rider alerts, and revised dispatch instructions could create a controlled alternate path. The proposal carries real friction. Riders will be confused. Operators will need new instructions while already en route. Accessibility support must move. Customer service will have to update several channels at once. The mayor's office has already been told the hub remains open. Leadership is concerned that moving service will look like the authority lost control. One executive says, "We can keep using the hub. We just need to manage the entrance better." The authority adds another supervisor. It does not add another lane. By 7 o'clock, buses are arriving 20 minutes late. Transfer protection decisions are being made 1 route at a time. Operators are reaching required breaks late. Riders headed to the hospitals are calling customer service from buses that have not moved. The rail connection is missed twice. Police narrow the service entrance again after water undermines more pavement. At 7:20, the authority begins moving routes to the alternate locations. The redirection works. But the morning network has already absorbed 2 hours of delay, missed transfers, operator displacement, rider confusion, and public frustration. The authority did not lose control because the obstacle was impossible to move. It lost control because leadership kept treating the original path as part of the objective. Think about what actually happened. The bus operators did not cause the failure. They followed the route instructions they were given and tried to preserve transfers inside a shrinking operating space. The supervisors at the hub did not lack effort. They directed traffic, managed riders, adjusted boarding, communicated with dispatch, and attempted to keep the service entrance usable. Public Works did not fail because the road could not be reopened on demand. The pavement had collapsed over an active water main failure. The site required isolation, assessment, and repair before normal traffic could return. The Transit Authority also was not wrong to test whether limited access could preserve the hub. At the beginning, the service entrance was open, the transfer center was usable, and leadership did not yet know how long the closure would last. The first response became a failure when the authority kept defending it after the operating evidence changed. The visible misread was simple. Leadership believed keeping the hub open meant keeping the transit network moving. But the hub was a method. The objective was safe service and reliable connection. Those are not the same thing. A transfer hub concentrates routes because concentration usually improves coordination. It reduces walking distance. It simplifies dispatch. It gives riders one known location. It supports time transfers. But when access to that hub becomes the obstacle, the concentration that normally creates efficiency begins creating captivity. Every route still has to enter the same restricted lane, and every delay enters the same queue. Every late bus affects another route. Every rider who misses one connection increases pressure on the next departure. Every attempt to protect the original structure makes the whole network more dependent on the blocked point. That is path captivity. The obstacle begins defining the path, and leadership starts acting as if progress cannot continue until the obstacle is solved. Look back at the signals. The buses were stacking faster than supervisors could clear them. That showed the service entrance did not have the capacity to carry the morning network. Riders were missing connections even while the hub remained technically open. That showed the original location was no longer protecting the purpose it served. Pedestrian movement was crossing the same narrow lane used by buses. That showed the temporary path was creating a growing safety and flow conflict. Dispatch was holding buses one decision at a time. That showed the network had lost a stable sequence and was being managed through individual exceptions. Police narrowed access again as the roadway condition changed. That showed the authority did not control the obstacle and could not build the morning plan around it. No single signal automatically required a full redirection. Together, they showed that direct management of the blocked hub was no longer the best move. Leadership continued for understandable reasons. The published network centered on the hub. Moving routes required fast communication. Riders would need to walk between temporary locations. Accessibility support had to be repositioned. The authority had already told senior officials that service would continue through the normal facility. There was also a psychological cost. Keeping the hub open looked like control. Moving the operation looked like retreat. But the objective did not need the building. It needed the connections. The better question was not, how do we keep every routicing the central hub? The better question was, how do we move the hub's blocking effect out of the network so the routes can continue? That question changes the decision. The authority did not need to repair the water main. It did not need to force public works to reopen the road. It did not need to keep adding supervisors to a lane that could not carry the volume. It needed to separate the routes from the blocked access point. That meant using other locations, changing the sequence, reassigning supervisors, updating communication, and controlling the issue that remained. The water main failure would still exist. The central hub would still be closed. The alternate locations would create inconvenience and cleanup, but the obstacle would no longer own every route in the system. Early redirection would have protected more than travel time. It would have preserved operator positioning, dispatch capacity, rider trust, accessibility support, rail connections, and the authority's ability to make decisions before the network became saturated with exceptions. So ask yourself a few questions. What was the actual obstacle? What objective was it blocking? Why was leadership treating the original path as if it were the objective? What became more difficult each time the authority tried to force more service through the same restricted point? And what could have continued if the obstacle's effect had been moved earlier? The direct action tool for that condition is obstacle redirection. Obstacle redirection is a path-clearing strategy used when an obstacle is interfering with the objective. Direct correction is not the best move, and the decision maker can use controlled influence to move the obstacle out of the path so progress can continue. The use line is direct, move the obstacle out of the path so the objective can continue. Obstacle redirection is not ignoring the problem. It is not pretending the obstacle disappeared, and it is not moving the problem onto another team and calling the work complete. It is not simple postponement. The obstacle is already active. It is already interfering with the objective. The leader has to do something now. But direct correction is not the best immediate move. That may be because correction will take too long, create unnecessary disruption, require authority the leader does not have, consume resources the objective cannot spare, or produce more collateral damage than the alternate path. In those conditions, the leader changes the obstacle's relationship to the objective. The leader may reroute work, shift sequence, reassign ownership, separate a dependency, move a service location, use an alternate channel, or direct resources through another approved path. The obstacle may remain, the objective does not remain trapped behind it. That is the distinction. Identify and postpone fits when an issue is real but does not need to be acted on now. Obstacle redirection fits when the issue is already blocking the path and must be moved so progress can continue. Tactical resolution stabilizes the effect of an active problem. Obstacle redirection changes the path so the objective is no longer dependent on that obstacle. Critical intervention acts directly where the problem sits. Obstacle redirection is used when direct correction is not the best immediate move and a cleaner alternate path exists. In the transit scenario, the authority did not need to stabilize the collapsed road. It could not. It did not need to intervene directly on the water main repair. That belonged to public works and utility crews. It needed to move the transit network away from the blocked access point. Recognition signals are practical. One obstacle is controlling the entire route. The team is spending more effort fighting the blocker than advancing the objective, and direct correction will take longer than the objective can tolerate. An alternate route, owner, sequence, location, or communication path exists. The organization keeps insisting the obstacle must be solved before progress can continue, and the remaining issue can be assigned, tracked, and returned to after the objective is freed. That last signal is essential. Redirection without ownership becomes dumping. A team changes the route, transfers the pressure, and leaves another department holding an undefined problem. That is not controlled redirection. The objective may move, but the organization has created a second obstacle somewhere else. A proper redirection identifies what remains unresolved, who owns it when it returns, and what signal would require another decision. That recognition level is where I want to keep this public tool brief. The complete offset method teaches the structured redirection process, influence path mapping, return point design, wrong tool correction, communication, ownership, and reassessment. That deeper execution belongs inside the direct action training. For now, remember the operating principle. The obstacle may still exist, but it does not have to own the path. Now move the same pattern into healthcare. A regional outpatient network operates several specialty clinics across the same county. One morning, a water leak closes the only ultrasound room at the busiest location. Facilities isolates the affected area, the equipment is protected, but the room cannot reopen until the leak is repaired, the space is inspected, and the environment is cleared for use. The clinic already has a full schedule. Some patients have traveled long distances. Several appointments support time-sensitive treatment decisions. Providers are expecting results before follow-up visits later in the week. And the first instinct is to preserve the schedule at the original site. Staff call facilities repeatedly for a repair estimate. They compress other room use, ask whether the equipment can be moved within the building, and begin pushing appointments later into the day. The waiting room fills. Patients receive several different estimates. Providers start rearranging follow-up work around results that may not arrive. Direct correction is not the best immediate move. The leak cannot be repaired faster because clinic leadership needs the room. Moving the equipment through the affected area would create additional technical and environmental risk. Continuing to delay patients at the same location gives the appearance of protecting the schedule, while the schedule becomes less reliable. The network has another path. A sister clinic 12 miles away has protected imaging capacity that afternoon. Some appointments can be moved there. Staff can separate patients who can safely reschedule from those whose care path depends on timely imaging, transportation support, updated instructions, and one scheduling owner can control the transfer. The closed room remains a facilities issue with a defined return point. What is the objective? preserve one building's schedule, or protect patient access to the needed service? What direct correction is leadership trying to force? Can the patient path move without creating unsafe handoffs, duplicate scheduling, or lost documentation? Who owns the closed room after the appointments are redirected? Obstacle redirection does not make the leak disappear. It prevents the leak from controlling every patient attached to that room. Now move it into manufacturing. A manufacturer is completing a customer-critical run of machined housings. The parts require an approved heat treatment cycle before final inspection and shipment. Midway through the week, the plant's primary furnace develops a control fault and is taken out of service. Maintenance begins troubleshooting. The repair may require a replacement component that will not arrive until the next day. Work in process begins accumulating in front of the furnace. Machining continues because the upstream cells are still capable, but the blocked heat treatment step is now controlling the entire production sequence. Leadership initially focuses on restoring the furnace. That is understandable. The equipment is inside the plant. The team knows it. Repairing it preserves the normal route and avoids external processing cost. But every hour spent waiting increases the queue. Finished machining consumes carts and floor space. Inspection cannot begin. Shipment confidence falls. Overtime is added to downstream departments, even though they have no material to process. The plant has an approved outside processor already qualified for the same part family. Using that route requires transportation, revised tracking, a controlled custody handoff, and a schedule adjustment. It also means the internal furnace problem remains unresolved. Direct correction may still be the right long-term action. It is not the best immediate path for the customer-critical lot. The leader can redirect the affected lot to the qualified processor, resequence internal work so lower priority material does not crowd the path, assign maintenance ownership for the furnace, and establish a return decision once the control fault is understood. What is blocking the shipment? The broken furnace or the belief that every part must remain on the normal internal route? What could be protected by moving only the customer critical lot? What risks appear if the outside path is not controlled? When does the operation return to the internal process? The objective is not to prove the plant can repair its own equipment before using another approved path. The objective is to release conforming product on time without losing control of the remaining equipment issue. Now move it into hospitality. A hotel is preparing for a large evening event that includes a reception, dinner, awards program, and several hundred guests. 4 hours before arrival, a sprinkler line leak damages part of the main ballroom ceiling. Engineering closes the room. The repair contractor cannot complete the work before the event. The ballroom is the planned center of the operation. Catering, staging, audio equipment, seating, signage, and guest arrival instructions all point there. The event team has spent weeks building one flow around one room. The first response is to wait for a better repair estimate and preserve the original plan as long as possible. Staff delay moving equipment because moving twice would create more work. The event manager considers opening only the unaffected side of the ballroom and compressing the seating plan, and that approach protects the original room. It does not protect the event. The reduced space creates crowding. The damaged section remains inside the guest path. Catering loses service access. Audio coverage no longer fits the seating layout. Every additional minute spent defending the ballroom reduces the time available to prepare another location. The hotel has 2 adjacent meeting rooms and a covered pre-function area. The event can be split. The reception can move to the pre-function space. Dinner can use the larger meeting room. The awards program can move to the second room with a live video feed. Guest communication, signage, staffing, and catering sequence must all change. That redirection is not free. It creates friction, movement, and a different guest experience. It also allows the event objective to continue without forcing an unsafe or unreliable correction inside the damaged ballroom. What is the obstacle actually controlling? Does the event require one room, or does it require a safe arrival, coordinated service, and a credible program? What remaining issue belongs to engineering after the event path moves? What communication is required so the redirection does not become confusion? Obstacle redirection protects the event by separating it from the blocked location. The environment's changed. The decision pattern did not. The transit authority had a central hub that could no longer carry the network. The clinic had a closed imaging room that could not support the patient schedule. The manufacturer had a failed furnace controlling the production sequence. The hotel had a damaged ballroom holding the event plan in place. In every case, the obstacle was active. The objective could not simply wait. Direct correction was too slow, too disruptive, unavailable, or unnecessary inside the immediate decision window. Another controlled path existed, and the leader had to move the obstacle's effect, not pretend the obstacle was solved. The tool is the point, the situation is the proof. Obstacle. Redirection fails when leaders use it as a polite name for abandonment. They move the work, shift the pressure, and leave the remaining issue without an owner. The new route works for a day, so the temporary path quietly becomes permanent. Another team absorbs the burden. The original problem returns during the next high-pressure moment. That is not path clearing. That is organizational dumping with better vocabulary. Controlled redirection preserves two things at once. The objective keeps moving. The unresolved obstacle remains visible, owned, and scheduled for return. Timing still matters. Redirect too early, and the organization may create unnecessary disruption when the original path could have remained usable. Redirect too late, and the obstacle consumes time, capacity, trust, operating space, and alternate options. Force direct correction when a cleaner path exists, and leadership may spend more resources defeating the obstacle than accomplishing the objective. The stable pattern is direct. The obstacle is blocking the path. The objective still matters. Direct correction is not the best immediate move. A controlled alternate path exists. The remaining issue can be owned. The new path can be tracked. That is the obstacle redirection condition. Before we close, look at one obstacle already controlling progress in your organization. What objective is being blocked? What path are you treating as mandatory? Why is direct correction not the best immediate move? What can be rerouted, reassigned, separated, resequenced, or moved? Who would own the alternate path? What remains unresolved after progress resumes? When does that issue return? And what signal would tell you the redirection is creating another obstacle somewhere else? The accountability question is simple. Are you protecting the objective, or are you fighting the obstacle because changing the path would force leadership to admit the original route is no longer useful? Obstacle redirection is not avoidance. It is controlled path clearing. The leader moves the obstacle's effect away from the objective, keeps the unresolved issue owned, and tracks whether the new route remains under control. This has been DA Tool Brief 0005, Obstacle Redirection. Across the next direct action briefings, we will place this tool inside different operating environments and examine how movable obstacles capture the path when leadership insists on solving them in place. When you are ready to move from recognizing path captivity to building the full redirection path, ownership structure, return point, communication plan, and reassessment logic, the complete obstacle redirection method is taught inside the direct action training. Until then, keep one question in front of you. What obstacle is controlling your entire path only because leadership has not been willing to move the objective around it?